Can you make a vegan, gluten-free molasses cookie that's every bit as good as the regular version? Let's find out. For the vegan, gluten-free molasses cookie, you'll need 1.5 cups of gluten-free baking flour and 3/4 cups of almond flour. You'll need 3/4 cups of brown sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ground ginger, and 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1 teaspoon baking powder, half teaspoon baking soda, half teaspoon salt, 6 tablespoons avocado oil, 1/4 cup of molasses, 1/4 cup of warm water, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then 1/4 cup of cane sugar. In a medium bowl, I'm adding my gluten-free flour, my almond flour, the cinnamon, the brown sugar, ground ginger, nutmeg, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. I'm stirring my dry ingredients together before I add the wet ingredients. I'm telling you, this is the easiest recipe to put together. Now I'm adding my avocado oil. The recipe called for grapeseed oil, but I use avocado oil for literally everything. I'll have the original recipe linked in my description box below. Now I'm adding molasses, and I like to spray my cup with oil before I put in the molasses. That way it doesn't all stick to the cup. I also did add my 1/4 cup of warm water, which is not shown here, and then I added my vanilla. I'm going to use my hand mixer, but first I like to move things around and get it incorporated a little bit because my mixer tends to spray the flour everywhere. You'll just blend it until all the ingredients are well incorporated. Now I'm putting my cane sugar in a bowl because I'm going to be rolling the dough and rolling it in the sugar. And I'm putting parchment paper down on my cookie sheet. If you have a cookie scoop, you'll want to use that. I do not have a cookie scoop, so I'm kind of making a bit of a round circle using 2 spoons. And then I'm going to drop it into the sugar and coat it with the sugar by either rolling it around or sprinkling it on top. Then I'll just put it down on the parchment paper and squish it down a little bit so that it's a little more flat. I'll just keep going until my cookie sheet is full. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees and I'm setting the timer to 10 to 12 minutes. So I usually go right in the middle at 11 minutes, but it definitely took the full 12. By the magic of video, there are those beautiful vegan gluten-free cookies. If you've ever been saddened by the texture of a gluten-free cookie, you definitely need to try this recipe. This recipe was just beautiful. Now my daughter Ivon is going to make the regular counterpart. She's using 4.5 cups of flour, 4 teaspoons of ground ginger, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of ground cloves, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. To that she'll add 1.5 cups of shortening, 2 cups of granulated sugar, 2 eggs, 1/2 cup of molasses. Then she'll roll the dough in coarse or granulated sugar. Her flour is in the bowl, and to that, she's adding her ginger, baking soda, cinnamon, cloves, and salt. I think all those spices together is so pretty. In a separate large bowl, she's going to add the shortening, which she had a little bit of trouble getting out. You'll see at the end some of our behind the scenes video. She's blending that until it's all creamy. You'll see that it's yellow because we were actually short on shortening, so we had to add butter to it. To that, she's adding sugar and getting that incorporated with the blender. We added a little bit at a time so that it was easier to get it blended in. This is where she realized that the blender was spraying it on the countertop. Now she's going to add in 2 eggs. I'm spraying the cup again to get it ready for the molasses. And in goes the molasses.
That looks delish. I think I might need a little spoon.
Now Ivon will get all that blended together. Ivon loves to bake, as you can probably tell, and she does have a baking Instagram account called Ivonio's Sweets and Treats, and I will have that linked in the description box below if you'd like to see what else she loves to bake. She's giving a quick stir to her dry ingredients so that she can add it little by little to what she's already blended, and she'll blend it in as she goes. And now it's all blended in and ready to go. Down goes her parchment paper. And just like my cookies, she's putting the sugar in the bowl, the granulated sugar, so that she can roll her cookies in it before she bakes them. This recipe, which I'll also have in my description box below, called for 1/4 cup of dough for each cookie. So these giant cookies, I think, gave her an unfair advantage when it comes to seeing which cookie's better, her or mine. So this very first cookie sheet, I have her doing the giant ones like it says, and then her second cookie sheet, they'll be a little bit smaller so that we can have a fair contest and find out which is better, the regular ones or the vegan gluten-free ones. Once she gets all of her cookies on the cookie sheet, she'll press them down just a little bit before they go in the oven. But I have to say, you want to have less cookies on your cookie sheet because they kind of baked all together and we had to break them apart afterwards. So if you want that nice roundness, you want to put about half of those cookies on there. And she's going to take them out of the oven like magic. And they are, I have to admit, big and beautiful. Look at that. You can see how much smaller and better spaced out that second batch is. So we're getting that in the oven. And then I have a little trick on getting the cookies onto the cooling rack, because usually you have to wait for them to cool down a little bit, but I don't want them to continue cooking. So I'm pulling them, parchment paper and all, onto the cooling rack, and that way they don't break and you can get them cooling on a cold rack right away. And there is our I'm done with the cookies dance. Which cookie recipe do you think is going to be better? Here's my vegan gluten-free cookies, and as a reminder, here's Yvonne's regular recipe. Let's see how they taste.
That is good. Dang.
Even after instant replay, we could not come to a decision, so you're just going to have to make the cookies and let us know which one you think is better. Meanwhile, here's a little behind the scenes.
This is embarrassing.
Do you know?
No. Push. Push.
Get mad at it. Yeah, off to the side would probably be good. You were like, push. No. Push this. Hold this. Push that. Put your hand on the top. Push.
Hi, Ivon.
Ava, you need to stay over there until we're done. Okay, move over.
Oh my goodness. Ow.
Sorry. Actually, we're gonna have to clean the floor.
Okay.
Alright, move over. Okay, you ready?
Thanks so much for watching. Remember, as always, God loves you and I love you, and I can't wait to see you next time.